Welcome to Straight from the Gavel. My name is Dave Barber, coming to you from room 35 inside the Rhode Island State House, often referred to as the House Finance Room. And each and every week at this time, we like to invite a member of the General Assembly in to discuss some of the things they've been working on. And yes, they do work on things even when they're in recess. And it gives me a great deal of pleasure to welcome back a gentleman we've had the opportunity to have on the show before. He represents Providence and has a little portion of Johnston as well. Our good friend, the Honorable State Representative John Carnevale. Representative, it's great to see you.
Good morning, Dave. Great to see you also.
You know, I know that, as I mentioned, you folks stay very busy even when you're out of session. And one of the things that you've worked on, in fact, it's been a big important factor to the Speaker, is economic development. And one of the things that your legislation established, and when I first heard about it, in fact, Capital TV covered it, was this commission to take a look at this I-195 project. First, set the stage. What is the project, and why could it be important to our local economy?
Sure, Dave. The 195 project was created when approximately 40 acres of land were opened up in the downtown area. The land north of what used to be the 195 corridor. 195, as you know, the S-curve was taken out of it, and
Right.
40 acres of land opened up. This is a project that actually came into a vision back in the early 80s. As I said before, when I was an intern here in 1980 under former Speaker Matthew Smith, I actually had the opportunity to see the plans back in 1980, my freshman year of college. But this can be an economic boon to the city of Providence and state of Rhode Island. 40 acres of land, 20 of them developable, we can develop. We put this commission into effect in 2011. Myself, Senate Majority Leader Dominic Ruggiero, and the governor's office. We worked on the legislation, hundreds of hours, and we set up a commission to oversee the development of this parcel of land.
And I remember when we covered that initial press conference, one of the things that impressed me was this commission was designed to make sure that the left hand knew what the right hand was doing, and that you didn't go at this project willy-nilly and it become another Mineral Spring Avenue. No disrespect to Mineral Spring Avenue. That you wanted synergy there. You wanted to find like-minded businesses and professional groups to participate there, and you gotta love the location.
Yeah, Dave, it's a fantastic location, and you're correct. We didn't want to go willy-nilly and just take in retail and those large box businesses, box stores. We've been taking our time. The commission's been doing a great job. The chairman of the commission, 195 Commission, Colin Kane, is doing a great job. Matter of fact, in April, we had a press conference, and I say we, it was state elected officials, city elected officials, and people from the private business sector. And we did the grand opening of the construction for the infrastructure. And people have been asking, well, how come it's taking so long? You have to have concrete, strong infrastructure. And what we did is the state signed a $13 million contract with Cardi Corporation to redirect the roads, underground utilities, sidewalks, public parks, pedestrian walkways and whatnot. And that already is spawning business and generating more money and setting the economy forward as these construction workers, hundreds of jobs have already been created doing this. But what we're looking for is we're not looking for, as I said, those box stores. We want to be an offshoot of the Longwood area in Boston, Massachusetts. This land is in prime location. It is surrounded by great universities and medical facilities at this point in time. And what we have going for us is the highway access, and our land is less expensive than what is left in the Longwood section of Boston.
And I'll tell you, I've heard good things about your chairperson. I hear that he's a pretty sharp operator. So even though it's not the sexy part of the project, it's the blocking and tackling. That's the progress you've kind of made so far.
That's correct. It's something that people don't see. You know the old adage that Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will the Knowledge District. But it's on its way. $13 million of construction are already taking place, and the foundation is being set.
Well, now I know a second element to this project, and again, I think the upside potential is really, really good, is the marketing aspect. Have you been talking to organizations, and if so, how has that been going?
It's going well. You're correct. Marketing is very important. And in May, what the commission did was they decided to hire an executive director who would basically oversee the marketing and the sales of the land. They had 200 applicants, and as they went through them, they decided to go with a woman named Jan Brody. She has extensive history of developing, over 25 years experience, a lot of it done in the Boston, Massachusetts area, but she has great ties to Rhode Island. She was the vice president for many years of the Providence Armory Development Company, and she's done a great job. She knows Rhode Island quite well, and she's taken the bull by the horns.
And I know, too, there's been talk about possibly building a parking garage across from the Garrahy Courthouse. Is there a need for that? Is that going to happen?
Well, let me say this, Dave. For many years, the city of Providence has had a parking problem on and off, not unlike other urban areas in the Northeast. And especially came to fruition in the late 60s, early 70s when the malls started springing up in the suburban areas because they have surface parking, free surface parking. Matter of fact, in 1970, the city of Providence came out with a plan that called for parking garages to ring the city on the near the highways. That never came to fruition. In the mid-'80s, late '80s, when Joe Paolino was mayor, there was a call for a deck to go over Route 95 north and south for parking, and then shuttle buses could take people in. But once again, that never took place. And even under the David Cicilline administration, there were different calls to spend $20 to $40 million on a parking garage in that area across from the Garrahy complex. Do I think it's needed? Yes, I do think it's needed. I think this is the time because that is going to be the central point for the new and the old, for the old business district and the new river district to all merge for residential and commercial, and parking is needed, especially if we can keep it cheap, or we can even do as they do in some municipalities in Florida where it's free parking. This is what we need to bring more people to the downtown area.
Well, that's a very interesting point you make about keeping it low cost or free, because in that little slice of Johnston, you have an interest in constituency there. You know, that Hobbsbrook Management Northwoods project, one of their biggest selling points is that they have 1,300 free parking spaces. And if you could pull off something that would provide additional parking to visitors and employees in the city of Providence that would be reasonable and or free, I think that could be a home run.
I agree with you 100%. And Northwoods is going to be a boon for the town of Johnston. I mean, that's going to be great. But it has already begun to hurt the city a little because there is one business which will go unnamed that is leaving the city of Providence and is going to Northwoods already. And that's one of the reasons, the free parking.
Well, I think you're onto something there, and I certainly would like to see that happen. And again, as we continue this I-195 discussion, at the end of the last legislative session, there was talk about a nursing school somehow being a part of this project. I know we've had guests in the past on this show that say that we have a shortage of nurses in Rhode Island. How does the nursing school play into this project?
Yeah, Dave, the nursing school has been batted back and forth for many years. And the people of Rhode Island have been calling for consolidation, and that's what this is. We have two state schools that have excellent nursing programs, Rhode Island College and the University of Rhode Island. We finally found a location for them to merge their nursing schools together, which will save the taxpayers dollars and create even a better nursing school and bring people into the city of Providence. But it's also a private and public project because Brown University is involved in this. This is going to be located at the intersection of Point Street and Eddy Street, where the old Dave All factory was, and then later on Dave All became commercial and office space. It's in a building that was opened in 1912, a beautiful brick building which is hollow right now. It's been gutted and it's been tagged the Dynamo building. It's an old power plant building for the old Narragansett Electric. It's approximately 250,000 square feet. The three of these entities will get together. Brown University will have administrative offices there. URI and Rhode Island College will have a nursing school there because there is a shortage of nurses in the state of Rhode Island. There will also be a residence built for the students, and across the street on the south side of Point Street, a parking garage will be built for this entity.
You know what? And that's a classic example of that synergy we were talking about earlier at the beginning of the show, making sure that these organizations, that they're all a good fit. I mean, a nursing school partnering with these types of organizations also in the neighborhood, that certainly makes good sense. And not only that, but when you look at our economy and the future for jobs in not only Rhode Island but in America, healthcare jobs, it's one of the categories where they're constantly hiring and there's a real significant need. And in the specific case of nursing, we have a problem here in Rhode Island, and maybe that could fulfill a need here as well.
Yeah. Dave, right down the street, there's the Warren Alpert Medical School from Brown University. There's URI, Women and Infants. The students on internships could literally walk there, and that's what this 195 area is about. It's about life sciences, technology, and healthcare.
Well, I'll tell you what, I hope that all comes together because it's certainly needed and it certainly seems to make sense. You serve as co-chair of the Providence House delegation, and you have a group of House members who represent portions of Providence, and you obviously have a focus on Providence. It's been a big story in the news. It's a landmark building. It's called the Superman Building. It's been sitting vacant for a while. It was certainly a negative shot to the city of Providence because it meant a loss of commerce. Bring us up to date on that whole thing. What's been happening? Is there any light at the end of the tunnel? Do we have any bites? Are there people interested? What's happening there?
Yeah, the Superman Building, originally named the Industrial National Bank Building, has a little place in my heart. My father was an iron worker, did ornamental iron work when I was approximately 6, 7 years old in the late 60s.
It got the name the Superman Building because it looked like the building from the
Daily
movie,
Planet,
right?
It looked just like the Daily Planet, yeah. And I had the opportunity, I was 6, 7 years old, to go all the way to the top, and it was a beautiful view. I remember being there with my father. But yeah, Superman was in the 1950s. The Daily Planet. This building was actually constructed in 1927, 26 stories, 428 feet high, approximately 440,000 square feet of office space. Beautiful Art Deco building. Unfortunately, it's vacant, as you said. In 2008, a company called High Rock Development out of Massachusetts bought the building. Approximately a year ago, the lease ran out on the major tenant, which was Bank of America. High Rock had ideas to put residential housing in there, not condominiums, but individual apartments, approximately 280 apartments. The problem with that is that they were looking for approximately $30 million from the state, $10 to $15 million from the city of Providence, and approximately $20 million from the federal government. They came back and told us that
this isn't the time to be asking for that kind of money.
No, it's a big butt, right? Big butt on that, but that's what they wanted. And they told us that it would create approximately 1,100 permanent jobs for the 30 months that it was being constructed and rehabbed. They would kick approximately $150 million in the construction industry, and this was all put forward by a company that did the assessment on their behalf. Will that take place? I don't know. But what I would like to see take place...
Well, we know one thing. They're not getting the government money.
No, they're not getting the government
big lump sum of cash that they're asking.
Look, we know, and you know, there are many residential developments that do get assistance from the government, from the state, from the federal, from the city. But let's all face it, I believe the 38 Studios situation left a bad taste in everybody's, and it brought it to the forefront, and it woke up a lot of people. And you know what? It should. So we have to be more diligent with what takes place with the taxpayers' money. So at this point in time, unfortunately, the building is empty, and we're going to see what happens. I personally would like to see an independent commission set up by the legislature, Rhode Island General Assembly, a quick one. Put people on it who have the time to almost do it at a full-time pace, to do an investigation on it, maybe a 90-day investigation, and let's see where we can go with this building.
So tell me again, who owns the building right now as we speak?
A company called High Rock Development out of Massachusetts.
Now, do you know if they're out pitching the building, if they're out maybe trying to sell the building, if they're trying to do anything independently other than the one idea of the residential housing? Have they given you any feedback? Have you heard from them at all lately?
I don't know. I will say personally, my gut feeling is I like a residential aspect to it as opposed to commercial or office situation, because I think it fits in well with what is taking place right down the street at 195 redevelopment. Those people who will be working there in these high-tech areas love to live in the city, these young urban professionals. They need a residence, and that's what we need in the city, a livable downtown. So this is all just another piece of the puzzle for the city of Providence and the state of Rhode Island. But at the same time, once again, we have to be careful with the taxpayers' dollars. I will tell you that approximately 2 weeks ago, I went to federal court on a day off, and there is a pending lawsuit right now. High Rock Development is suing Bank of America for approximately $23 million, stating that Bank of America left the building in disrepair, which would cost approximately $23 million. I went to federal court to observe that, and the judge ruled that for 9 months, both sides will have that 9-month period to bring forward discovery, and then after the 9-month period, there are another 90 days for motions to be placed.
Wow, I didn't know about that. That's very interesting. When you talk about residential, you know, I've become a fan. I've been doing a lot of reading about these. I think they call them micro apartments.
Correct.
And they're these little tiny living spaces, and some very creative designers and engineers have gotten together, and they've taken spaces, made them very livable, but yet they're very small, very affordable. And again, with the economy the way it is, with younger professionals that maybe are just getting their career started, that don't have $300,000 or $400,000 to pay to buy a condo or a home, I really like this concept. And you can put a lot of units in a space the size of a Superman building.
Sure. They're great. I've toured them. Matter of fact, they just opened up at the old arcade, the oldest indoor shopping mall in the country.
How were they received there?
I don't know how the sales are going yet, but I physically toured them to see what they looked like. And they're great. And there are, I believe, 28 of them there. They're very small, approximately 400, 500 square feet. But they're on the upper levels of the arcade, and the lower level is now retail.
Well, I'll tell you what, some of these spaces are so cleverly done, and it's amazing what creative minds can do with a very small space. We're in room 35 here, and Rep. Carnevale, this must seem like a second home to you, because you serve on the House Finance Committee. You have to be pleased, as I think a lot of citizens were, that historic tax credits were restored. Is that going to be a boost for our state's economy?
Absolutely, Dave. The previous 10 years when we did have the historic tax credits, thousands upon thousands of jobs were created. It helped the economy immensely. We did a good job with the rules and regulations on historic tax credits. We set the maximum that could be used at $35 million and a maximum per project at $5 million. All of the discretion was actually taken away when it was handed out. It went into a lottery system. And I believe 32 different projects were awarded that $35 million. So
I like the idea so much. I wish
complain.
it had been a little even more bullish. I wish the number would have been even bigger, because I've seen the benefit, not only from the creation of jobs, what it's done to restore beautiful historic buildings in our state and maintain the kind of architecture that is so much a part of Rhode Island. I wish the number would have been even bigger.
Yeah, especially in the urban areas where we have these beautiful old factories. Matter of fact, if you ride down Valley Street in Providence, you'll see the Rising Sun Mills. It's just a gorgeous area where there are restaurants in there, and there's retail, and there's commercial in there, and it's beautiful. And we're looking at $35 million, producing approximately $150 million into the economy.
Well, that's certainly a bonus. You worked specifically on some legislation this past session, and again, everybody has a water meter, and you had some legislation on how water meters are to be read. First of all, how did this come to your attention, and what does this legislation do?
It actually came to my attention approximately 3 years ago from Mayor Joseph Policino at the town of Johnston. And it was going to cost the town of Johnston approximately $1.2 million to install these high-tech radio frequency water meters. So we looked into it, and lo and behold, my investigation as a former police officer tells me that they're not needed. They're really not needed. The benefits are not there. There are approximately 12 communities in the state of Rhode Island that are mandated to put them in. All the towns that are mandated to put them in if they have a public water system of 500 customers or more. But there are 12 or 13 of them that still have to put them in, and it would cost them approximately $28 million to put them in. It's just a radio frequency water meter with a computer chip in it, and it's just not worth the benefit. And most of the water supply boards do not want to do it. So we've been fighting this for 3 years.
Do they not want to do it because they're not accurate, or it's too expensive?
Well, let's put it this way. One, it was too expensive. They're very accurate. Without a doubt, they're accurate, but it's very expensive. And we were told that one of the benefits of it is that it will, the chip in it will notify you when there's a leak. Well, it doesn't notify you when there's a leak in the street, and that's where most of the water leaks take place. If there's a leak in your house, you see the water leak eventually. You'll see it come through the ceilings, or you'll see it on the floor. Most of the water leaks take place in the street, and we already have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment to detect those leaks in the street. And that was just one of the cases that they try to put forward, but there was really no need for it.
You know, you mentioned you're a former police officer. I see these police officers now with these handheld ticket writing machines. You know, they just punch a couple of numbers and boom, the ticket spews out. They always, by the way, seem to find my car. Technology is certainly here to stay, but you just believe that for now it's cost prohibitive.
Absolutely. And I traveled to most of the water supply boards throughout the state. I took my own time, and I went to all these water supply boards and spoke to them. Some of the towns have 2 or 3 different water supply boards there, and the vast majority of them did not want to install it. They did not think it was worth the money.
You know, have you seen the story, and I'm digressing a little bit, have you seen the story about Amazon using drones to deliver packages to your house? If they're under like 5 pounds or something, they can have the package to your house in 5 minutes or under 30 minutes. I mean, where we're going with technology in our country today, we can't even fathom what's going to happen. Maybe one day this water meter reading system will become more affordable, like a lot of technology has, and one day maybe a system could be developed that would be workable.
Maybe in the future.
Yeah.
You may be right. Dave, that's all too high-tech for me. I still carry a flip phone, and I'm frugal. I have a black rotary phone at the side of my bed. So.
Tell me you don't have a rotary phone.
I do. I have a black rotary. It works. Why get rid of it? I'm frugal.
Now listen, I mentioned that this seems like a second home to you because it's without question a very important committee, the House Finance
Absolutely.
Committee. I was happened to run into Chairman Mello the other night, and wished him luck because the hours are enormous. The work is tedious. Can you give us an update on the work that the committee will be facing this year with some of the challenges that communities here in Rhode Island are having?
Sure, Dave. Well, it is. It is a lot of work on the House Finance Committee, 3-4 days a week, sometimes till 10, 11 o'clock at night, but it's great. I love being on the House Finance Committee. We were told at one point that for fiscal year 2014, we were looking at possibly a $140 million deficit. We recently received information that there was a bit of a surplus from 2013 that would be placed into 2014, so the deficit is not going to be as high.
So what do you think it'll move to?
I'm not sure at this point in time. The numbers still aren't all in at this point in time, but we're being told that there's a surplus. So even if we have a $120 million deficit, we have to make cuts. It's quite simple. We have to make cuts somewhere. But the thing I'm looking forward to the most, to be truthful with you, is that there's been a commission, a zero tax, sale tax commission that has been meeting regularly. Representative Jan Malik is the chairman.
Yeah, he was on, I guess, a couple of weeks ago.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, great. And he's doing a great job with it. And I'm waiting for them to report to us their findings on the zero sales tax situation, which I find to be very interesting.
Well, it was interesting, and as I told him, who wouldn't like to have to pay no sales tax? But the question then becomes, how do you make that money up? And that would certainly be a challenge for the House Finance Committee, I'm sure.
I agree with you. I've watched all of the hearings. If I have not come to the State House, I've watched them on TV. And yes, it's easy for people to come in and say, let's have zero sales tax. But it's much more complicated than that. And I have to give credit, I have to give kudos to a state employee from the Department of Revenue, the chief analysis, Mr. Paul Dion. He does a great job. He sits on that commission. He's also testified on the other side, his facts and his figures, his graphs. He does a great job, and he shows how it's really easy to simplify something, but let's see what really happens, because for every action, there's a negative reaction. And Paul Dion has done a great job.
Rep. Carnevale, I know that you spend a lot of time in your district talking to a lot of your constituents, visiting businesses, going to schools, coffee shops, etc. What are the people in the neighborhoods telling you? What are the folks in Providence and Johnston telling you when you talk to them one-on-one about our state and our economy?
99% of them tell us they love it, they don't want to leave, they love this state, but they're worried about their children and jobs, staying here in the economy, and two, they're choking on taxes, and mainly property taxes. So those are two things we have to work on. We have to bring the economy back. The 195 project, that's a great project, but it's only a piece of the puzzle. You know, that's great for high-tech jobs, science jobs, healthcare, but we have to bring in jobs, blue-collar jobs that the average working man and lady can do and support a family. You don't have to make $100,000 a year. If two people work in their family and they're making $25,000, $30,000 each a year, a family can survive and have a good life. So we have to bring back some form of industry. And yes, there is industry still in this country. We have to bring it back, and that's what we have to do.
You know, I don't think we've exploited our shipping potential here. I think that we could have a real upside possibility for growth there. I love the 195 idea. I'm very bullish on that. But I think that we have some real upside potential for good paying jobs if we were to expand our business using our available waterways.
Dave, I agree with you. People don't realize that the Port of Providence, that strip coming up Narragansett Bay, is the deepest natural port in the Northeast. And we have to take advantage of that. With Quonset Point and the Port of Providence, shipbuilding, maritime industries, that is something we have to take advantage of.
In our last 30 seconds, Representative, what will be your priorities in 2014? Session's right around the corner.
One of my priorities, there are many, but one is that health care for the long-term person in the long-term health care situation, basically the elderly and developmentally disabled. I would like to bring back the state tax deduction that is equivalent, we took that away years ago, state tax deduction that is equivalent to the federal tax deduction, so that we can try to compensate for all we've taken, the monies we've taken away for those who are developmentally disabled and for the elderly. These are the people who are long-term. If we can bring back the state tax deduction, we can give them some money back on the opposite end.
Rep. Carnevale, you've always been very cooperative with us. I wish you and your colleagues in the House the very best.
Dave, thank you for having me here today.
And of course, we could not do it without you. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Dave Barber, and remember, please, that you heard it straight from again.